that's one of the things I work against when I'm talking with somebody and they say, well, he's a socialist. I say, could you explain to me what you mean by that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, in 2007, I remember, it was detrimental after George W. Bush was finishing out his second term as president to use the word liberal. And I remember in debates, there was a question that was asked in August of 2007, I think it was in Nevada, or it was an AFL-CIO, something conference. And I remember they asked all the candidates, and they started off with Hillary, are you a liberal? And she said she likes the word progressive, because the meaning of progressivism in the turn of the 20th century and how we progressed as a nation, and globally as well. And I like that word, progressive, but it's starting to get a bad taste in some people's mouth because they're using people like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, the opposition, the Republicans, or people in our own party that might not agree with some of the things that progressives push forward. And I'm one of those people, I don't always agree with some of the things that they're pushing forward. But it's just enough with the rhetoric and the right and left. It should be about who's right and who's wrong, like I was saying. And that, I think, is just so important.
I'm going to be over at the DEC where you're going also. But I want to ask you this
Have my
question.
back, have my back.
That's why I want to ask you this question here. The Democratic Party in Florida, of course, under Allison Camp, has just put together a plan, a series of recommendations and so forth. From
The task advisory by Bill Nelson and Al Dennings.
Right, which I've looked at and so forth.
It's interesting.
Given your youth and experience and perspective on things, were you consulted at all? Were you asked
The morning after the election.
suggestions to go into this report?
Not into this report. I'm going to be with Bill Nelson, actually. That's my fourth event tonight. I'm going to be with Bill Nelson and Charlie Chris and Alex Sink tonight. But I was not consulted specifically for that. But I think they're doing themselves a very strong service, actually, by putting somebody like Val Dennings, who's a former police chief there in Orlando, she's pretty fair-minded. I could use the word progressive, I think, with her forward thinking. I think that she kind of sees the situation like a lot of people that necessarily in this room that are not holding office or not even thinking about running for office or that aren't as involved as what somebody that is a party official of either party here in the state might say. I don't necessarily agree with everything in that report, but I think that what we need to get better about doing, and I've said this to people, even with the Republicans, we need to stop selling fear on both sides. We need to stop with the negativity. We need to have a transfer of ideas and what we're going to do. Because again, as I was saying, it's not enough to have a vision of what you want America to be. How are you going to lead us there? Those are the kind of people that we need to put forth for any offices, even small local city commission or city council or mayor's races or county commission races. People need to have a plan of action of what they're going to do, because it seems that you get Democrats and Republicans. I can name a whole list of Democrats, but I can name a very long list of Republicans as well. People at both the state and the federal level that they have this rhetoric when they get elected, and they go in and they have no plan of action. We need to get better about kind of fielding those kind of people, and I hope that that's something that we do. And I hope that we embrace younger people to step up to the plate. And I think that we will, because Allison, there are younger people that are right around my age, that are 24, 25, 26, that are, I know two people just in the last couple of months that they announced, and they're both gay, and they're both under 28, and they're both running for the state house, which is what I have thought about running for, but I'm going to wait until that person probably turns out and go with another seat. But it's just, I think it's important for younger people to an extent to step up. And I think that she'll be a little more inclusive, I think, of everyone. We just need to have that transfer of ideas, and that's kind of been missing. I'll go to you really quick, and now I'll go to you.
One of the things that really I found emotionally disturbing during the first Hillary campaign was simply the way she was being attacked, not for her politics, but for being a woman.
Yeah.
And the right wing, were using like the C word and stuff,
Yeah.
which was purely attack. And I feel that that's going to happen again, and I'm just wondering how the campaign is.
I've seen that from the Sanders campaign, which is not, his people that are actually on the grounds that are hired organizers in Iowa and New Hampshire. use that word. I mean, one of the people that's going to be there today actually has used that word.
To her, about her?
About her. And actually, I was screenshotting it on my phone. But what I love, this person also that's going to be there today, you might know Shauna Berger. I think she's the political correspondent, for now, for the entire state. I coordinated her campaign. She came up second in her Democratic primary for the state house last year for District 67, and she would have been the best candidate to go forth in that primary. But unfortunately, out of that, now you have another Letvala. You have a Chris Letvala along with his father, who's in the state senate, and now you have another Letvala that's in the state house, which is really sad because he's very anti-woman. He's very anti a lot of the things that I'm sure that a lot of us stand for in this room. And those attacks are going to come. I've already seen them. But what I find more disturbing is when people in your own party are using that kind of dialogue. And to go back to Shauna, she's a shining example. The man that's going to be there talking about the Sanders campaign today, that's from Pinellas County, he in front of the St. Pete Democratic Club called her a whore. Somebody recorded it. So then when he came with his candidate that won over her for the state house last year to the West Pinellas Now chapter with my good friends Tony Van Pelt and BJ Starr, bless their hearts, they really let him have it. You got to hold people accountable for that kind of dialogue. I hate that word. I hate the C word. I hate the word whore, slut. I hate it all. I hate adjectives that are used to describe women candidates that are not used or targeted towards male candidates. I mean, the words that they're using to describe Hillary Clinton, even in 2008, because I remember that primary was very long and bruising, and it was very hard and emotional. And now I even think to now, I'm starting to see a lot of that kind of repeat itself. Is that anything that she can do? Can she do anything about that? No, but I think that's my problem in general with the media. I think the media allows all of that. Even the left-wing media. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't watch The Ed Show. I don't watch Morning Joe. I don't watch Chris Matthews. I watch Rachel Maddow. I like her. But I don't watch a lot of those people, and they happen to be men because of the way that they treat Hillary. It is such a double standard. And it is sexism. I mean, I even look at Sarah Palin. The way that she was treated in 2012, for people to be using the word retard to describe a vice presidential candidate, regardless of what her politics are or you think her aptitude or IQ is, how dare you? Especially somebody that has a special needs child. But not only that, where's your respect? The way that I've seen her treated, the way that I've seen Michelle Bachmann treated, the way that I'm starting to see by both parties, the way Carly Fiorina, because we do have another woman that is running for president on the Republican side, the way that I see her being treated, she was at a Christian Science Monitor magazine breakfast, and they do candidate by candidate, and I watched it because I watch all the Republicans' ideas. I love it. I think it's great to try to learn or try to understand people who don't agree with you. And one of the reporters asked her why she was wearing pink nail polish. In 2008, John Edwards made a joke during the debates when the question was, the statement was, say something nice about the person next to you. And John Edwards was next to Hillary Clinton, and I remember that he said, she's got a very incorrigible laugh, but I'm not sure about that pink jacket.
Oh, God. And look at him.
Well, yeah, I mean, how that kind of, proceeded to come to fruition. But stuff like that, women are held to a much different standard, and that's why I think it's important to talk about Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin, Carly Fiorina, Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton. I mean, for people from, the Wall Street background, the banking background, to say that they want to teach Elizabeth Warren a lesson in banking. It's funny to me because I took an economics class in high school, and I actually checked back with my Republican teacher that teaches that economics course. That's who I learned who Elizabeth Warren was. And this was in 2010 when I graduated. It was my senior year of high school, and they still show that same video. Elizabeth Warren is teaching America's children about economics and regulation and banking all across our country in public schools. She's been doing it for years because it's an old documentary.
Florida people haven't found out that yet.
I don't think a lot of people have found that out yet. I don't know that a lot of young people even remember that or realize that. But it's very, it's intriguing to kind of see how women candidates are treated. And that's why I think I always gravitate towards that, because I feel in a lot of circumstances, and I say this respectfully, that women are kind of perceived as an underdog, especially when they do something to throw their hat in the ring and decide to run for office. But I think that that's why it's important that we have people like Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin, Elizabeth Warren. I think it's important, that's why we have these people running for office, because in a way, we talk about the glass ceiling a lot and shattering it. It puts cracks in a glass ceiling for other women to be able to step up to the plate, to run for office. It gives them the opportunity and the outlet to be able to live up to their own God-given potential. And I think that is so important, and that's one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about, is calling out that kind of behavior, because it exists in both parties, and I'm starting to see a lot of it in the Democratic Party, and I don't like it.
What do you say when they, because this is a problem I get, what do you say when they say she's dirty money? That's what I get a lot when I talk about her.
Well, you know, and I had this conversation, I actually, before
I don't have an answer.
Well, are you talking about Wall Street money?
Yeah.
Well, I say this, you know what bundle donations are? Bundle donations are, you know, when you talk about Wall Street, you have JP Morgan, you have Chase, you have Goldman Sachs, there's a perfect example. They are very big contributors to Hillary Clinton's campaign, but they're bundle donations. That means that someone from that company decided that they are going to get other people from that company together and say, hey, would you like to max out and write $2,700 check to the campaign? And if you do that, you get all these other people that are working with that company. And they can all, that's a bundle donation, and it goes under the donation name of that organization, which would be a bank or a Wall Street organization. But if you actually look up and you go on opensecrets.org, for example, because all this stuff is public record, and you go and you see the people that are writing the checks under Wall Street and the banks, they're all women. They're all women that are working on Wall Street because they know what it's like to live and work in a man's world. Nobody ever talks about that, and that pisses me off. They're all women. They're all women. You can look that up, that's public record, but no one ever reports on that. They're all women because they know what it's like to have to work in a man's world.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
Will that fly on Facebook?
Write it. I mean, I've been trying to
Because I
preach.
get battered whenever I put a Hillary thing on there.
Oh, I know, it's horrible. I mean, people know, I know so much about that woman's record. It's not even fun. I mean, I know so much about her record where, I mean, I can talk about a lot of it. And I welcome those kind of attacks. I welcome people talking to me about Monsanto, about genetically modified organisms, about pesticides, the Clinton Foundation's donor practices. I used to work with the Clinton Foundation when I lived in New York City when I went to college there. So, you know, I welcome that kind of dialogue because I think it's important to be able to give back an answer. And when people talk to you about that dark money that's coming from a lot of Wall Street, it's bundle donations and it's by women. They're all predominantly women. It's shocking if you see the list. And they're Democrats. Opensecrets.org.
Open secrets?
.org, yeah. You can go and you can look up any election cycle, any candidate, which I actually recommend that you do this with your local candidates as well. And you go and you can look and you can see who's contributed to them, what organizations, and you can go and you can look. I mean, David Jolly, who's my congressman, poor Alex. It's really unfortunate, that congressional race, but if you actually go on there, you can look. BP, he has, what was it, 19 huge contributions from BP oil. You can just kind of see that the people that are lobbying them, how they're going to vote when they get into office. And I wish that more people use that website and use the tools and resources that are out there on, but what else? Something most of us use every day is the internet. Use it as a learning tool to teach other people, because that stuff is on, you can see all the people that are donating. Bernie Sanders, you can go up in there and you can see, I love it too, there's a DRR next to their name. There are a lot of Republicans for some reason donating to Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Because they're fed up with Republicans.
I don't know that it's that.
They don't want Hillary.
I think they
Oh,
yeah.
I thought about that.
A lot of it is that they want a weak candidate. That, I mean, if you believe polls this far out, Ted Cruz even beats Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders loses to every GOP candidate. I haven't seen the polling with Donald Trump yet, But he even loses to Carly Fiorina,
Nobody.
a former CEO who was fired from Hewlett Packard. So it's, I like him, I like a lot of his ideas, I'm not gonna trash him. I have no reason to trash him. I'd say look up his voting record, because I don't think he's as progressive as he paints out to be. He voted against the Brady bill.
I know.
He voted against immigration reform in 2007. He voted for a bill that legalized concealed weapons and guns on Amtrak trains in Vermont and the rest of the United States. He's voted for many pieces of legislation. I mean, I hold Hillary accountable too. Look up her record. Look up everyone's record. That is a smart voter. And that's what I hope that I did a little bit of today by coming here is, you know, look around, teach each other, learn from each other. The internet is a beautiful tool if we use it for more than Facebook and Twitter. Truly. So, is that...
You can tell the crap from the things that are real.
Yeah, and stuff like that, it doesn't lie. It's like Bill Clinton says, math doesn't lie. But when it comes to FEC, federal election law, that stuff is required to be reported monthly or quarterly, depending on what race it is. And the presidential races, they have to be reported quarterly, and you can see a lot of the donations already from every candidate. Jeb Bush's are really interesting.
If the media sells what people want to buy, people want to buy the anger and the, you know, how do you get this information, like, for instance, the bank contribution from them, how do you get the media to be willing to report that kind of stuff?
They mostly don't. I mean, I written so many letters to the New York Times, for example, about my dissatisfaction with the way that they talk about Hillary Clinton. I mean, they are vicious towards her. It's disgusting. It's disgusting the way that they treat her. But, you know, Hillary Clinton has a task force team that she did not have around this time, which I think is going to be very, very apparent, where as the campaign progresses, any kind of issue that comes about is going to be, he wants to vote for Hillary, poor thing. Any kind of issue that comes about that is not, you know, factually true, or they're half true, whatever it is, they're going to be briefing Hillary supporters and putting that stuff out and having their own team with a task force that's going to be doing a lot of that information. Which the first thing that they did, and that's why she held a press conference about it, because she needs to fight back against some of these ideas. She let the media walk all over her last time. She did. She invited that in. She's always had a very strained relationship with the press, but the first thing that they did, and I thought they did a really good job of doing talking points to Democrats and Hillary supporters in general, getting that information out there, was about the email situation with the server. Having two emails under her own server, one email under one server, and it wasn't a state.gov server, it was a private server that she uses because she's a former First Lady. She's guaranteed those kind of Secret Service services for the rest of her life. She has to protect herself and her online information. So she opted out of, you know, using rather two emails, because who wants to use two emails? I have two and I hate it. You use one. So anything that was, you know, sent to anyone at the State Department was sent to a .gov account, so that was actually captured on that State Department server. So it's giving people the talking points like that, so that way they know, especially the organizers and the people that are going to be on the ground like myself, boots, doors knocking, everything, going and talking to whether it's Democrats, Independents, Republicans, Greens, Libertarians, whatever they might be, going to them and talking to them about what is actually the reality of the situation. And I'm so glad you have this.
I was very disappointed as a systems analyst. I was very disappointed in what she had to say about, I don't want email accounts. And I was very disappointed in how that was handled, maybe only through the press, but what I heard her say, I was not happy with that whole situation. I think she really invited that, and she should have fought ahead.
Oh, I think she did too, but I don't think
The whole thing was wrong.
I agree. And I think that she's taken responsibility to a certain extent for that. But in the bigger picture of what's going on in the world, I'm not going to judge Hillary Clinton for having used something that, I mean, if you really understand it, her situation is much different than anyone else that's been Secretary of State, because she's a former First Lady. She's recommended by the Secret Service to protect herself and the locations that she's going to, the meetings, the private meetings that the general public does not need to know about, to protect her own safety and her life. So.
That should have been made, again, I like that you're saying you're gonna have this task force that will, that will come forth